This is America in Space, a weekly news and information program on current events dealing with the space industry. From the Washington News Bureau, here is your host, Rick Potluck.
Reporting today for America in Space is Dawn Meyer from America's Space Coast.
NASA plans to take the next man and the first woman to the moon's south pole by 2024. The lunar program is named ARTEMIS, after the Greek goddess of the moon and, fittingly, Apollo's twin sister. With the ARTEMIS program, NASA plans to use innovative technologies to explore more of the lunar surface than ever before. Collaborating with commercial and international partners, the goal is to establish sustainable exploration by the end of the decade and then use what they learn on and around the moon to take the next giant leap, sending astronauts to Mars. The Artemis lunar system is comprised of 5 main components. The SLS, or Space Launch System, is NASA's new, very powerful rocket that will send humans and cargo to the moon and beyond. NASA's Orion spacecraft will carry crew to the lunar orbit, where they will transfer to the Gateway outpost orbiting the moon. From Gateway, astronauts will take the lunar landing system to the lunar surface and return them to Gateway, and eventually the plan calls for a lunar outpost on the moon. Here is Amanda Dressler to give you a brief overview of how all of that will work together.
NASA is heading back to the moon, but this time, instead of taking one step, they're hoping for a much longer stay. In 2019, NASA announced its plans to return to the moon with the exciting news of sending the first woman and man to the moon's south pole by 2024. The Orion spacecraft is built to carry crew members beyond low Earth orbit. It's composed of 3 major parts: a launch abort system, or LAS, which would separate the spacecraft from the rocket if an accident were to occur during launch, a crew module where astronauts would live and work, and a service module, which is essential to the crew as it provides life support and energy, in addition to the spacecraft's propulsion system. Ensuring the functionality of each of these components is crucial for the survival of the astronauts. And on July 2nd, 2019, the Orion test spacecraft passed a full stress test to ensure its launch abort system was able to outrun a speeding rocket and pull the crew module to safety. But in order to get to deep space, the Orion capsule will need some help, and this is where its rocket comes in. The Orion capsule will be hitching a ride on the Space Launch System, or SLS. The SLS is designed to carry Orion into deep space with missions to the moon and Mars. Now that we have the capsule and the rocket covered, the last piece of the puzzle is the deep space outpost called the Gateway, and it's a key element to landing astronauts on the lunar surface. Located roughly 400,000 kilometers away from Earth, the Gateway will be a small space station that will orbit the moon, allowing for the Orion spacecraft to dock, where it will serve as a base for astronauts to conduct scientific experiments, expeditions, and get accustomed to living in deep space. Crew members will visit the Gateway at least once a year for up to 3 months at a time. And unlike the International Space Station, which is the size of a 6-bedroom house, the Gateway's interior will only be the size of a small studio apartment. In order to visit the lunar surface, astronauts would take a reusable lunar landing system down to the surface to explore. The system would need to include elements for descent, ascent, transfer, refueling, and a surface suit. As for the construction of the Gateway, plans are already underway. NASA hopes to send up large portions of the spaceship for automatic assembly on roughly 6 rocket launches, which is a steal considering that it took 34 launches to build the ISS. So you're probably wondering when Artemis will take flight. Well, the Gateway is expected to be completed in 2024. The first manned mission, Artemis II, will launch in 2022, orbiting our lunar neighbor before returning to Earth. But it's in 2024 that NASA will finally revisit the lunar surface in over 50 years. In fact, Artemis III will deliver pioneering astronauts to the moon's south pole for the very first time. But the Artemis program isn't just important for lunar exploration. Preparing astronauts for life on the Gateway will allow for more studies on how the human body responds to life in deep space and provide more opportunities for exploration. Long-term, the Artemis program hopes to create a lunar colony by 2028, an essential pit stop for getting a manned mission to Mars.
We're returning to the moon after a 50-year absence. It's going to be exciting. And this time we aren't going for just a few days, or a camping trip, as they sometimes call it. We plan to create a human presence there. From the Florida Space Coast, this is Dawn Meyer for About Space Today.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to share our program with your family and friends and follow us on Facebook. Join us each week for news and information on America in Space.